Hello, everyone. My name is Steve, and I'm the Young Adult Librarian at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Today I'm going to talk to you about what's called blackout poetry. This is a great way to write poetry if you're a young adult or really anyone. And April is National Poetry Month, so this is a great way to get an early start, write some poetry. And the way I found out about this was through an author artist. His name is Austin Kleon. About a year or two ago, I was just looking for some ideas for poetry projects I could do with young adults and came across something called blackout poetry. And when I started reading about it, it led me to him. And he's written a book called Newspaper Blackout. And that got me into this. Again, it's fun, it's easy to do, it doesn't take much to do it. What you will need are some kind of markers. I have a number of Sharpie markers that I use, starting with like something like a king size, and this is one that you could really do a lot of the filling, because if you use like a real fine point Sharpie, it will take a long time. So, I have something like this when it gets to the fill part where I'm just trying to cover up a lot of words. That makes it go a lot quicker. There's a smaller one. I think it has pretty much the same size tip as the king size. Then there's the normal Sharpie that most people have in their homes. This is a really good one. That's just the standard size. Then this is the one I really like too, because it has like the standard size tip and it has a fine point tip as well. And then the last one is just sort of the fine tip Sharpie marker. And then I also use a pencil. Some people don't use a pencil, they just use the Sharpie, select their words, and that be the end of it. But I like to use a pencil to start. That way I can just, select anything I want. It's easy to cover up after the fact once you do start writing poetry. The next thing you'll need are newspaper articles. So I just go through the newspaper. I look for any kind of articles that have unique words, like this one on the left here, which I call ants. It says, ants traveling alone in a world green under plants. And so the word ants caught my attention. I thought, wow, this might make a good poem. I just scanned through the rest of the newspaper article, found other words that I thought would work for a poem. And that's what I do. I go through the entire article. I look for words that might fit in a poem, even if they might not end up in my final poem. I go ahead and just draw a box, and you can see on the one here on the right where I've done that, where I've just selected any word that might end up in my poem. And then I go back, and the ones I'm really going to use, I will make a darker box around them. And so that's the way I do it. And then the next step is I take like a fine point Sharpie marker and I draw an outline around those words that are going to end up in my final poem. And I do this for a couple reasons, just to give me sort of a border around my word. And these markers will bleed a little bit. So again, it gives me sort of a buffer when I'm doing my final fill, so I don't accidentally get too close to a word and then it erase part of it, because that has happened before. One other thing I like to do as well is I like to incorporate doodles, some kind of artwork. So this one on ants over here, I drew this ant, nothing fancy, nothing, real artistic, but just to sort of incorporate into, my poem to make it a little more visually appealing. And that's pretty much what I do then. After I do the fine point Sharpie around the words I'm going to use, then I take one of the bigger Sharpie markers with the bigger chisel tips, or again, you could use a standard one, it's just going to take you longer. And then I just start, filling in all the other words that I don't want. So it almost looks like redacted poetry. But I think it gives a really cool effect. Again, it's super easy to do. I mean, pretty much just need some, print text and a Sharpie or any kind of marker that's going to cover up what you don't want, and that gives you some really cool poems. So I hope you'll try this technique. I hope you'll give it a shot, and then I hope you come to the library and show me what you guys have done. Thank you very much. Bye bye.